Ukraine may consider Macron's idea of deploying foreign troops. Zelensky to call Biden soon to discuss Ukraine's invitation to NATO and why Assad's regime collapsed so quickly. We'll talk about this with Michael Sheitelman, a political strategist based in Kyiv. Michael, glad to see you and thank you for joining us.
Hi, good evening, Olga.
Michael, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has stated that in a conversation with his counterparts, French President Emmanuel Macron and US President-elect Donald Trump in Paris, he emphasized that Russian leader, terrorist Vladimir Putin does not want the war against Ukraine to end and must be forced to do so. But how? It means a strong army, weapons packages, long-range systems, or something else?
Probably President Zelensky spoke exactly about what you mentioned about the strong army and about new weapon. Because now we have Mr. Putin's position about the negotiation, and this position was proclaimed again and again and again in different situations. It started in May when Putin did that in some event in Foreign Ministry of Russian Federation, afterwards in the meeting with Mr. Orban, Hungarian Prime Minister, and afterwards we called with Mr. Scholz, Chancellor of Germany. And just yesterday, Peskov, who is the speaker of Mr. Putin, he said again that the starting position for a negotiation of Russian Federation is that Ukraine should to lend to Russian Federation 4 regions. It means Crimea plus 4 regions, which are not occupied, by the way. This is not regions but occupied by Russian army, but to lend them 4 regions and to recognize these regions as a part of Russian Federation, including, for example, a city of Zaporizhia, which is 1 million people city with 1 million population. And the city there's no Russian forces. But the Putin's position that Ukraine should just give this city without any war towards Russian Federation. And as additional claims is Ukraine is refused to go to NATO, and etc., etc., etc. But obviously, this position of Mr. Putin not accepted not only but by Ukraine, not only by Ukrainian president or Ukrainian nation, but also by United States. This is obvious that United States will not come to Ukraine and say, "Wow, let's move your army from your own regions." It's absurd offer. So yes, so there is no chance now just to start negotiation with these kind of preconditions by Mr. Putin.
Michael, we can say goodbye to these positions if we talk about the Zaporizhia region and so on, and Kherson region, also Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea, because it's our territory, it's Ukrainian territory, and also about another troops. President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that Kyiv may consider French President Emmanuel Macron's idea for the future deployment of Western military forces in Ukraine. And it was reported by Interfax Ukraine. At the same time, the president said there should be certain conditions for this. Which conditions, in your opinion?
Well, I can't guess that, but I heard something from French president before. I mean, then he brought this idea about to send French troops to Ukrainian territory, when in one of press conferences or in one of interviews, they said that the condition is if Ukrainian army couldn't stop Russian forces, and Russian forces will move towards big cities like Zaporizhia, for example, or like Odessa or like Kharkiv. So in this condition, France is ready to send French forces. That's it. This is not a part of peace deal. This is just a part of the war. But separately from that, there's the new idea. This is the old idea, which is a year old or something like that. But there's a new idea now in Europe, is to send forces as a part of peace deal with Russia, as peacekeepers. Well, this idea first was brought by German foreign ministry, that Germany is ready to send forces if we have any peace deal with Russia. And now I understand that Mr. Macron also is ready to participate in these peacekeeping forces. But to send peacekeeping forces, you need agreement first, and afterwards peacekeeping forces. So we are far away. We are really miles far away from this point.
Michael, President Volodymyr Zelensky also stated that he will contact the outgoing President of the United States, Joe Biden, to address the matter of inviting Ukraine to NATO. According to Zelensky, it is difficult to speak with US President-elect Donald Trump because he has not yet taken his position and does not have all of these legal rights. Do you agree that it makes no sense to discuss with President Trump that while today he is not in the White House, it does not depend on him?
I believe that we have another reason to not discuss now with President Trump our membership in NATO. Obviously, when I say obviously, I mean that a lot of sources in Western press and a lot of Western politicians said that Germany and United States are not ready to accept Ukraine in NATO at this stage. In spite of being we have a part of our security agreement with United States that our way is to NATO, and the United States will accept Ukraine inside NATO. Yeah, but not today. Second, we don't have now on the table the deal which Mr. President-elect, Mr. Trump, will bring towards Putin and Zelensky. And he said on this last meeting in Paris that he is working about this plan, on this plan. So inside this plan, we will see what is the idea of Mr. Trump to see Ukraine in NATO in the future, or never, or now. But obviously, to discuss it before this plan, before Mr. Trump has this plan, it is really senseless. Not because he is not in charge of United States, but because he is not ready to that, and he said this openly, absolutely open. About potential conversation with Mr. Biden. Yeah, before the election, before the November's election in the United States, there were some voices from White House that during the last months of Mr. Biden presidency, we have some chance to change the status of Ukraine towards NATO. Not to full membership, but to another more deeper negotiation point with NATO about membership. So, yes, probably Mr. Zelensky, President Zelensky knows more about that, and he heard more from State Department or from White House about these possible moves. But I can't believe that these possible moves is candidacy for NATO, for example. It is just, let's say, potential one more step towards NATO, because we have only 40 or something like that days till Mr. Biden will leave White House.
Also, during a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Friedrich Merz, the leader of the German SDU bloc, which is likely to win the parliamentary election in February, has proposed creating a European contact group to find a common position on ending Russia's war against Ukraine. Do you support the idea of creating such a group? And how will this affect, how do you think?
Well, it sounds like, first of all, a pre-election claim of Mr. Merz. They have an election to parliament, to German parliament in February 23rd, yeah. This visit obviously connected to this election, because Christian Democrats in Germany, they have stronger position against Putin than Social Democrats, who now is ruling party. Mr. Merz mentioned last month that when he will be the Chancellor of Germany, he will move some precondition towards Mr. Putin. Or you stop a war during 24 hours, or we will supply
Taurus missiles.
Taurus, yeah, new missiles, long-range missiles to Ukraine. So obviously he has like tougher position, and he wants to bring this tougher position. But this is on the one hand. On the other hand, he knows that last opinion polls inside Germany, they says two news for us. First, yeah, a lot of Germans, 59% or something like that, or more, 65%, they support supplying weapon towards Ukraine, yes, 65%, but on the other hand, more than 50%, they are ready for territorial compromises by Ukraine. They want from Ukraine territorial compromises towards Russia. So Mr. Merz, who has a general election in foreseeable future, he wants also to bring some new ideas towards this part of German population, and this is more than half of German voters. So he should bring not only the idea to supply new missiles, but also to bring the idea to supply, let's say, new peace deal, European peace deal. And in this peace deal, Germany and France and probably United Kingdom should be the leaders of this peace deal. But United Kingdom, this is a country which are on the side of US. So United Kingdom will support Mr. Trump's plan. And Mr. Merz offers something like, let's say that we have our own plan, or let be part of this negotiation process, which will be organized by Mr. Trump. So, in fact, his idea is that Europeans, they shouldn't stay aside of this peace process organized by Mr. Trump. By the way, Chancellor Scholz has the same idea. He said, then he called Mr. Putin last month, he said that I called Mr. Putin for that Europe will not stay aside when US starts negotiation process with Russian Federation.
Michael, if we're talking about missiles, as you said, President Volodymyr Zelensky told the German Chancellor candidate Friedrich Merz in Kyiv on Monday that the Ukrainian side expects Berlin to strengthen Ukraine's long-range capability. And in general, should we expect Germany to strengthen Ukraine's long-range capability, or just the words, as you said, only pre-election position by Friedrich Merz?
Not before an election. Not before an election, obviously, because inside the Bundestag, the German parliament, this party, Christian Democrats, they brought to the vote this idea to supply our long-range missiles, and this idea collected some voices. I don't remember exactly what is the number, but it is executive branch. It is the government, not the parliament, who decides in this question in Germany by the law. So the only chance is then Mr. Merz will be the Chancellor of Germany. So obviously, by German tradition, he will do that he says, it is absolutely German tradition to do that you promised before an election. This is not not Mr. Churchill tradition, when Churchill said that you could promise anything just to win an election, and afterwards you do what you think that you should do. But not in German. German is very country, then politician should stay on his word. So yes, I believe that when Mr. Merz will be the Chancellor, he will do that he said. But it is a big question if he will be a German Chancellor, because it is very strange, very dangerous situation in Germany. Everybody who follows the political situation in Europe at all could see that some pro-Putin's forces, they just raise in their ratings. For example, in Romania, they had the first round of general election to presidency, and the candidate who took the first place was pro-Putin candidate, and they just cancelled these results because of Russia took part in this election, invested a huge money to this candidate. And we have in Germany very dangerous situation, because we have a party Alternative for Germany, which is supported by Kremlin, supported by Putin. And it is a big question if they will not support the election campaign of this party. It doesn't mean they have official contacts with this party, but they could just supply and pay for the advertisement and social networks inside Germany. It is very dangerous.
Michael, also let's talk about the situation in Syria, because it's hard to say which of the two pieces of news from Syria was more unexpected: the sudden resurgence of the civil war after several years of relative calm, or how quickly Bashar al-Assad's regime collapsed. From the beginning of the rebels' offensive, who are also referred to as militants, Islamists, or opposition members, the world has yet to settle on the correct term to the fall of Damascus. Only about a week and a half passed. Why Assad's regime collapsed so quickly, and what's next for Syria?
Yeah, it collapsed very quickly, and I put the parallel with, the great October Revolution in Russian Empire, because it took only 10 days. These days in 1917 in Russian Empire, Mr. Dean Reed, the writer, he wrote the book 10 Days Which Shaped the World. So these 10 days, they don't shake the world, but at least these days they shaped the Middle East. Because after this revolution, we could call this revolution, these 10 days, the face of Middle East could absolutely change, and to change towards the ideas of former president and former prime minister of Israel, who wrote another book, The New Middle East. So we could have new Middle East. Because the new government of Syria, this is not a government, but the force who rules Syria now, this Tahrir organization, they said that they are ready to negotiation with Israel. And Israel said they are ready to negotiation with Syria also. Israel Prime Minister visited the border between Syria and Israel yesterday, Mr. Netanyahu, and said that Israel is ready to negotiate peace deal with Syria. And it will change absolutely the face of Middle East, because Saudi Arabia and Syria and Lebanon, if we will have a peace deal with Israel, so de facto all of this region will become a part of Europe, from a logistic and from an energy supply point of view, and it will change also European economy, I believe. So this revolution, it is very difficult to underestimate that. This is a very, very important revolution. Why it collapsed so quickly? So we can say now that it was obvious, but not everybody knew that all the Assad's regime, they stayed only on Russian army and Russian military force. But this is not the first regime who stay on Russian military forces. The Assad the first, I mean the father of current dictator, Hafiz Assad, who became president of Syria in 1970, he also was supported by Soviet Union and by Soviet army, and de facto Soviet army participated in different Syrian wars, I mean from 1970. And after change of regime from Hafiz Assad to his son Bashar Assad, also the army changed from Soviet army towards Russian army. But during last 3 years, Russian army was de facto withdrawn from Syria. Yeah, we have some military bases, one for ships and one for aircrafts, but we almost not have ships and aircrafts there, and we don't have enough professional personnel, because all the normal soldiers and officers they sent to the war against Ukraine, and they dead, by the way, because they sent them in 2022, and now we have just very few soldiers and officers and very non-professional in Syria. So we couldn't help to Mr. Assad. And without Russian army, when Turkey and US agreed about to remove Mr. Assad, and they obviously agreed. I don't know, was it the current American administration or the new American administration of Mr. Trump, but it was agreed with Turkey. So technically it was not a problem, and politically we didn't see any problem when Russia withdrew their troops.
A serious example shows that Russia can be kicked out. And Russia's state-owned news agencies TASS and RIA Novosti have reported that ousted Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and his family are in Moscow, and Russia has guaranteed them asylum. What will become of Bashar al-Assad now that he has been ousted by Syrian rebels? How do you think?
You know, he's not the first and not the last fallen president who flew towards Russia or to the Soviet Union. I remember in Soviet times we have some dozens of former presidents in Moscow. Nowadays, for example, Mr. Assad, when we put the former foreign presidents in asylum in Moscow, if we put them in alphabetic order, Mr. Assad, whose second name starts with A, he will not be first, because the first will be former president of Kyrgyzstan, Askar Akayev, who flew from, after the revolution in Kyrgyzstan in 2005, he flew to Moscow, and till now he lives in Moscow. Also, we could mention, for example, Eduardo dos Santos, president of Angola, who flew to Moscow in 2017, and after his death, his daughter, Isabel dos Santos, she is the richest woman in Russian Federation. Yeah, this family, they grabbed all the diamonds from Angola, and now she has the wealth of $3 billion, and she is the richest woman in Russian Federation. So we can bring new names. For example, former Mongolian president Yugzhimin Tsedenbal also lived till his death in Moscow. So first of all, they don't live for free in Moscow. They pay for it. And Assad family will pay for this living in Moscow. And they pay huge money, not the normal price for rent of a flat. They pay huge money towards Russian corrupted bureaucrats for this asylum. And I mean I speak about billions of dollars. Mr. Assad has tens of billions of dollars, and he brought all of this money to Russia, and Russia are ready to sell Russian citizenship and Russian guards and Russian, security to Mr. Assad as the other presidents. And in case, by the way, I didn't mention former Ukrainian president Mr. Yanukovych also flew to Russia. And in case, for example, if in Syria, somewhere, will be discussed the question, maybe in Assad times it was better, in 10 years or 20 years. So Russia will bring this candidacy. Wow, we have former presidents, Bashar Assad, do you want him or not? Yeah, he is now our agent, but he was always our agent, Russian agent. So why not to put him again and again to put him in the presidency in Syria. So first of all, now we will not hear a lot about Mr. Assad, because he will be just very silent and just organize his private life. But in some decade, we will hear more, like we heard about Mr. Yanukovych at the beginning of our full-scale war. Russians, they brought Yanukovych. They hoped to put him as a president of Ukraine again.
Michael, Dmitry Peskov, the spokesperson for Russia's leader, dictator, stated on Monday, the 9th of December, that the Kremlin is working to establish contact in Syria with individuals or groups capable of ensuring the security of its military bases. And media reports indicate that Russia has requested Turkey's assistance to ensure the safe withdrawal of its troops from Syria. The troops are expected to be moved to Turkish-controlled areas before being airfielded back to Russia. Also, I see that Reuters reported that rebels told Turkey about attack plan 6 months ago. Will Erdogan emerge as the big winner of the Syria crisis, and also the role of Erdogan in all of this?
Yeah, about this Mr. Peskov speech, it was two different problems. One of them is Russian forces who spread to all over Syrian territory. I mean, they're not on the bases, not who are located on bases, but in some small cities, towns, etc. And we don't know how to bring them home now. And we ask for Turkey. Because we know that Turkey has a good connections with the winners, with Syrian opposition, just to bring them home. And this is tactical problem which will be resolved or not resolved during a couple of weeks. And strategic problem is two military bases, because the fate of these bases is absolutely uncertain, and new authorities of Syria probably will not want to have foreign military bases on the territory of Syria. And about Mr. Erdogan, it depends. We don't know exactly what will be the new political regime in Syria. It could be democracy, it could be not democracy, absolutely. It could be Islamic Republic, and it could be just Democratic Republic, and it could be authoritarian country. But obviously we have two winners. And one of them is Turkey, and second one is United States. United States invested a lot in Syrian peace and in stopping Syrian civil war, and also United States investment into to remove and to replace Mr. Assad. So now I believe the biggest negotiation is negotiation between Mr. Erdogan and White House about the future of Syrian nation and Syrian state, because we have a lot of options.
Michael, thank you for this interesting and informative conversation, as always. I need to say that Michael Sheitelman, a political strategist based in Kyiv, was with us today. The audience, subscribe on this YouTube channel. Also subscribe on Michael Sheitelman channel. We wish you a good day, and of course, see you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.